Okay, so integers, no fractions or decimals. Negative numbers to the left of 0 on the number line. Negative numbers, there are some negative numbers that have fractions or decimals, right? Everything in between these lines would be a fraction or a decimal. Opposite. So negative 3 is really the opposite of positive 3. Negative 100 is the opposite of positive 100, right? So the opposite of a number is the same distance from 0 on the number line. We always read the expression that has a dash in front of 100 as negative 100, right? But especially if there's variables, we should get in the habit of reading it as the opposite, right? Especially the opposite of a variable. But also, there are some exceptions to that when we talk about exponents and evaluating those as well. So negative a really means the opposite of the number a. Most of you would read that negative a, or most of my students, I don't know about most of you guys, but most of my students read that negative a. But a might be negative 4, right? And so that's the opposite of negative 4. That expression would actually be a positive 4 then at that point, right? So the notation negative a is read as the opposite of a. Filled in the red spots? Okay. So the absolute value of a number, so opposites have the same absolute value because the absolute value of a number is its what from 0 on the number line. Anybody remember? Noah, you remember? What the absolute value is? Distance. Perfect. And so absolute values are always greater than 0. Right? Because distance can't be negative. When we measure something, it's always a positive number. So looking at the bottom here, we talked yesterday about grouping symbols. I mentioned in addition to parentheses, braces, and brackets that a fraction bar is also a grouping symbol, but absolute value symbols are also grouping symbols. So we don't see them a lot, but if you happen to see them on a high-stakes test of some sort, college admission things, remember that is absolute. Those are the absolute value symbols, and they are a grouping symbol. So we need to put them in their correct place in the order of operations. So for A, before we can compare absolute value of negative 5 or simplify, compare the absolute value of negative 5 to the opposite of the absolute value of negative 5. We're going to evaluate the absolute values first. Remember, left is less than, right is greater than, and obviously equals, you know what that is. So you guys go ahead and fill in A, B, C, D. Go ahead and give it, is it going to be less than, greater than, equal for A, B, C, D? And then I'll uncover. I'm going to practice learning names. Oh, what? Actually, never mind. I know all your names. Let's see. Marcus, what'd you put for A? Less than, greater than, or equal? Greater than. So 5. So the absolute value of negative 5 is what, Marcus? 5. And the opposite of the absolute value of, why can't I speak? 5 is 5. So the opposite of 5 is negative 5, so you're exactly right. positive 8, and the opposite of absolute value of negative 8 is also greater. This makes this a negative. Absolute value of negative 8 is a positive number. The opposite of that is negative. All right. Any questions on that? Great. Moving on. So we said the absolute value of the symbols are grouping symbols. So go ahead and work this. Show me your steps for the order of operations. Remember when you're doing your homework, you're writing the problem, showing the work. Make sure to put your name on your work before you scan and submit it. It's not a foolproof way, keeping people from copying other people's work or scanning other people's work, but it does help me. Right. If you're finished with this example, I know sometimes you guys have to work ahead, but it helps me if you put your pencil down when I ask you to work something without me. That way I know that when everybody's done, I don't feel like I'm rushing people, but then I'm not just wasting time either. All right, what'd you get for the final answer, Angel? Okay, what'd you get for the final answer, Leo? Okay, I'll wait a few more seconds. What'd you get? Anybody get something different? All right, so let's look at the steps. We're going to do the innermost grouping symbols first. So 6 minus 2 is 4. We've replaced 6 minus 2 with 4. Now we're going to do the multiplication with inside our grouping symbols, which are our absolute value symbols. So now 19 minus 12 is 7, the absolute value of 7. Oh, they didn't evaluate it all at once. I would be okay if you did that. Any questions? I know I'm going a little bit fast, maybe a little bit slow for some of you. I'm trying to strike a happy medium of not being too boring, but also I do not want anybody to feel bad if they have a question. It's perfectly understandable if you do. All right. Whole numbers and their opposites are called integers. Do you guys remember what whole numbers are? Abel, do you remember what the definition of a whole number is? Say it again. A number that's not a fraction or a decimal. Can they be negative? Whole numbers are positive. Anybody know what a whole numbers start with? Ben knows. Do it. Not 84, I'll tell you that. What do you think it could start with? What do whole numbers start with? What's the first whole number? Nope, those are natural numbers or counting numbers. When you're a toddler, your parents teach you to count starting with 1. So what's the other thing it could be? 0, right? So whole numbers mean 0 and all the positive numbers with no fractions or decimals. Okay, you guys do A, B, and C. Oh, wait, have we gone to this? Huh. Well, I guess we didn't do rules. Let me give you rules real quick. So if you have, when you're adding same signs, so there's only 2 signs, right? Positive and negative. Adding same signs, whatever the sign is of both, that's going to be the sign of your answer, and then you add the absolute value, right? So both of these are negative. 1 plus 4, that's the absolute value of those numbers, that's 5, so our answer is negative 5, right? If they're different, We're going to take the number with the biggest absolute value, farthest from 0, subtract the smaller absolute value, and then the sign is the sign of the one that had that bigger absolute value. So 5 minus 1 is 4. 5 is farther from 0, so that is a positive 4. And you guys do see. Full disclosure, your calculator is going to do this for you, and I'm not really going to restrict the use of a calculator for you. I would expect most of you to be pretty good at adding and subtracting integers, multiplying, dividing integers. But on an assessment, I would also, especially if you have a little extra time, I would expect you to go back and double check that you didn't make a gross mistake, losing a negative or keeping a negative in the wrong spot just because you brought something down wrong from a step can be the difference from an A and a B. What'd you get, Ashlyn? Perfect. All right, any questions? Okay. So subtracting is the same as adding the opposite. So 3 minus 1 is the same as 3 plus negative 1, right? Negative 3 minus negative 1 is the same as negative 3 plus positive 1. We changed with those signs when you're middle school. You probably learned that as keep, change, change, if you saw that. That's how I taught it in middle school. So A is 2. B is negative 2. You guys do C and D. What'd you get for C, Hudson? What'd you get for D, Mariah? Not done? Okay. What'd you get, Ethan? So subtracting negative 1 is the same as adding positive 1. All right. Any questions so far? All right. You guys do that. Use your order of operations. Try to show as many steps as they've shown there. What'd you get, Zoe? 5. What'd you get, Aspen? Anybody get something besides 5? All right, doing our innermost grouping symbols first. And we're going to work left to right. Oh, they did the keep, change, change here, right? They switched it from subtracting to adding the opposite. I'd have been okay if you'd have done all that at once. And the answer is 5. Any questions? Deanna, will you pick your head up for me, honey? Thank you so much. All right, remember the rules for multiplying and dividing integers, positive and negative. Same signs are positive, no matter if it's 2 positive or 2 negative. Different signs are always negative. And this is for only talking about multiplying 2 numbers, right? If there's more than 2. You can look at the number of positive or the number of negatives, and that'll be your hint. But right now we're just talking about 2. All right, same signs, positive, different signs of negative. Y'all do A, B, C, D. Oh, D's a freebie. I forgot to put a rectangle over it. Ben, where'd you get a carpenter pencil? Ethan, where'd you get a carpenter pencil? Are you in shop? Is your dad a carpenter? His dad, Ben? Did you know that was a carpenter pencil, Ben? Yeah?
Yeah, I like it.
Okay. All right, what'd you get for A, Henry? Nope. Yes, 25. What'd you get for B? Who haven't I picked on yet? Caleb? Yep. What'd you get for C? Zachary?
-32.
Nice. And negative divided by a positive, negative 27 divided by 3, -9. All right, let's look at this next example. It looked like the same problem, right? Then I've had several people to shake their head, yay. So A, we are raising -2 to the 4th power. But in B, we're finding the opposite of 2, +2, raised to the 4th power. So we're going to read D as the opposite of 2 to the 4th power. You might want to make yourself a note of that if I write it down. I'm not grading your notes, and you can add to, I do expect you to follow along and complete the notes, so if we're raising -2 to the 4th power, we can put those parentheses in on our calculator. I don't expect you to do them by hand, but what that means is -2 is a factor 4 times, right? And an even number of negatives gives you a positive, so if you have more than 2 factors. Odd number of negatives would give you a negative. So if that were -2 raised to the 5th power, it would be a -32, right? All right, now this, we're going to find the opposite of +2 as a factor 4 times. So +2 as a factor 4 times is the same as -2 as a factor. It's +16, but the opposite of +16 is -16. So make sure you don't miss something like that on the ACT, SAT. So I'm taking those. We're going to take them again. It's a pretty easy one as long as you can remember it. Remember to look for it. Questions? All right. We're going to simplify using order of operations and the rules we learned on multiplying and dividing integers. So you guys go ahead and do A and B. While you guys are doing that, we actually are having less time than we had in the first period, but I did not print your assignment. It is in the chapter reading where I showed you it would be. If you think that you, for some reason, are not going to be able to access those problems from your phone or another device at home, and you want to let me know on your way out or email me. Oh, yeah, so thank you. That's because I had to cut and paste, and it popped up into there. So if you guys would add an excellent of 3 on A, on that -2, since I'm cutting and pasting these big, long notes, everything you see is on my version, and I'm cutting and pasting to put it on your version if you don't have so much. So don't forget, if you find those kind of mistakes, if you would let me know when you think there's something different, and we correct it on your notes. So these are made in PowerPoint, and I split it up in it, and it was out of the box, blah, blah, blah. Remember when you're done with A and B, if you put your pencil down, I'll know you're done, and then I don't, we won't wait too long or too short. Remember the caret button is your exponent button on your calculator, right below the pi button on your calculator. I know I mentioned this the first day, but now that we're doing assignments, if you have extended time, obviously I will grant you and I will recognize your extended time. That means an extra school day. So if you have extended time and you need to use it, yours for full credit would be due Tuesday at 7 a.m. All right, what did you get for A? Noah? What'd you get for A? Zoe? What'd you get for A, Zachary? I got 2 -9s and 1 36. Let's see. Oh, -9. All right, so -2 to the third power is -8. 8 times -9 is -72. Same signs gives us a positive. Does that make sense? Did you forget to add the, yeah, you didn't add the exponent on yours, right? Huh? Yeah, I asked you to add it. Yeah. I know I'm just rambling on. I feel like my students, I think most of the time she's just muttering nonsense. So I'm not listening to me when I actually say something important. Grant pointed out that there was a 3 was missing on your copy, so I asked you guys to add it. So an odd exponent is going to multiply that -2 3 times, and that's going to give you a negative there. All right, what'd you get for B? Marcus? What'd you get for B, Jewel? What'd you get for B, Aspen? Seems to be the consensus. Okay. So same signs, different signs. They did these first. I would have been okay with you doing dividing and multiplying there, and +6. Awesome. What are we going to do when they ask us to evaluate something given values of a variable? What did we say we do when you evaluate? Brian, what would we do? They give us x equals 2 and y equals -1, and they want us to evaluate that expression using those values. What do we do? What would you do? Yeah, sure, off your head. Say it. The first thing that pops in your head. Hudson, what do we say if you're evaluating something? What would you do with that? X equals 2 and y equals -1. Plug it in, remember? So wherever there's an x and 4x squared minus 2x plus 3y squared, we take that 2 because they tell us they want us to evaluate it for x equals 2 and y equals -1. So we're just going to plug it in. Now, y is -1. This is y squared here. There are no parentheses in this original expression, but we are raising -1 to the second power, not the opposite of that, right? All right. Was that the last problem? Oh, no. I still want you to do the homework. The video will post it if you want to see the end of it. There's just 2 of the word problems. They're just translating. And I'll show them in class on Monday, too. But still, we're going to go ahead and do the homework, okay? That's also a thing. You go and check symbol access this year? Can you have your phones out to work? Okay, cool.
We're talking about homework.
If you ever forget, remember it's on Canvas everywhere. So. I was supposed to be. They only brought me chargers. If you know business, did anybody? Any of y'all have frozen yet? That is technically my first. Actually, just a 53. You can look at find the top numbers on the homepage of Canvas. Once you're 18 all, and then 1952 asked. Yeah, we've all asked, and they just basically tell us. Sorry. Well, why did you and like sorry? I guess. Maybe later today. No, so I don't have any. Hi. Yeah, on the city card, I guess. Okay. Take care of it. Sure. Remember, your phone's not supposed to be out in here, right? It should be in your backpack before you come in the room. If it's in your pocket, go ahead and drop it in your backpack now. If you did not pick up your notes and your assignment for today, do that in the geometry tray. Did not grab your calculator, grab that. What do you think? Oh, those are the next Okay, well. Happy Friday, guys. Remember, your phone should be in your backpack already. No headphones. Yeah. I'm going to be real careful again. Are you good? How are you? Come here. Miracle, grab your stuff and come with me. Grab your backpack. Miracle, grab your backpack and come out here. All I want you to do is drop your phone and headphones in your backpack. Your stuff is not put away. Stop right there, put your stuff away. Your headphones in your backpack. Happy Friday! We've almost made it through our first week. Go ahead and get your homework from yesterday out. I'm going to post the answers and let you check it. If you did not grab the 2 papers from the front of the room from the geometry trays, grab those. If you did not grab your calculator, grab it. Pretty good calculator. If you did not grab your calculator, go ahead and get it.